Welcome to the Dangerous Faith podcast. I have several people with me, the Dangerous Life team, Blake, Zeke, Chloe, and Mariah. And we are going to be talking about the opening of the Olympics. They had that whole big ceremony, and it was in France this year. And then we'll eventually move into Christians and cancel culture. How do we respond when people do or say things we don't like? What is the best way of handling those situations? But anyways, just starting us off, can someone describe the opening ceremony? It was a long event, so you don't have to go from start to finish, but just some of the more potentially disrespectful aspects of it. Why did it cause such a stir among Christians? Anyone want to describe it? Mariah?
Well, I guess I can. So it sort of portrayed to most people what looked like the Last Supper. But it was a lot of individuals in certain attire and dress, like drag and very extravagant costumes, but it was very taken in a tone of mockery for a lot of people.
Okay, so during the opening ceremony, there was this scene with, people in drag, potentially representing the Last Supper as a famous painting many, many years ago. I forget when the painting was painted. But Last Supper. And so people thought that the designers of the opening ceremony, they were mocking Christianity. And then there was also the naked blue person as well.
That was creation. So that he was supposed to represent creation, or she.
I think it was feast.
Dionysus.
Yeah.
No, so originally the blue guy, the weird looking. I have no idea what that was about, but he was supposed to be creation, and so but because they were getting
Dionysus too.
Yeah,
you read the back part of that because in the beginning he was creation, just like the lady or guy, whatever it was. Don't mean to sound disrespectful, but the one that was doing the heart with they say like she was supposed to be representative of Jesus. She proved this because she posted on her Instagram story a picture of them and then Leonardo da Vinci's painting of the Last Supper. And so, yes, now that they've had so much backlash, they're trying to say, it was Dionysus, but no, he was originally creation.
Well, what I heard from was that, yes, it was the Last Supper portrayal with like the dragon stuff, but then the blue guy that was like on the dinner plate or whatever was Dionysus, and he was representing like feasting and, pleasure and all those things. So it was like a mix of both, but I don't know.
Yeah, as a PR response, some people were saying, no, it's not the Last Supper. It's something to do with Greek mythology and things like that. So I guess as a vote from the group, do y'all think that, we'll start with Blake, do y'all think that it was mimicking or mocking the Last Supper, or did it have something to do with Greek mythology?
It 100% was mocking.
Last Supper, Zeke?
Yeah, it was probably mocking. I mean, even if I'm wrong, it wouldn't surprise me if that's what they were going for.
Chloe?
Definitely mocking.
Mariah?
Just the way culture is, I'd agree.
Like, okay. There's been crazier things than that. Like, probably not on as a large of a scale, but like if you've ever watched like videos where it's like a women's rights movement, which we all know some of those can get a little insane now.
Do you not want women to vote, Zeke?
They already have the right to vote, so that's not what it's for.
Okay, so you're not for women's rights?
Anywho, so I'm not even going to go down that rabbit trail with you today. But like they've had way more blasphemous artwork and stuff like that there, which I wouldn't even call it artwork, but you know what I mean. Like depictions of Jesus as like these terrible things. So like this, if it's a mockery, not surprised at all. This is probably just the first time I think, hopefully it's awakening to Christians to say like, the culture's really not for you. Like I think most of us like veteran Christians know that by now, but for those who are either new or haven't taken their faith seriously, hopefully it's an awakening to say, like whenever the Bible says like your enemies are the world, the flesh, and the devil, like hopefully this starts getting people thinking like maybe that's actually true.
Right. Okay. Yeah. Before we move on to how we should respond as the church or as Christians in relation to this, any more thoughts on the opening ceremony itself, or we can hop over?
I just want to ask the question of just why they thought that was a good idea. And I get it. Like, they were just like, I understand it's for diversity and inclusion. I get that. But there's just something highly inappropriate. And Justin, he's not here, but he did point it out. And everybody saw it. I mean, there's a picture. You can look it up. But I can't tell if it's the guy's actual, like, genitalia or if it's like a prop. But one of the guys, his genitalia was hanging out.
Mm-hmm.
And literally like 3 feet away from him is a kid who's very underage. And I'm just like, why? Why? Like, that's just, like, if we just flipped it, for example, like, let's say that was a Christian display, it would be being like dragged through the mud.
Rightfully so.
Rightfully so. And it's just like, how can this man with his genitalia out next to a child displaying this like grotesque, like it really was just demonic in my opinion. Just the whole thing was just demonic. I did not feel like what did it have to do with the Olympics to begin with? Is what I'm just confused about. But I don't know.
I think that a couple things. One, when it comes to art, there's always the temptation when you create culture, this goes with music as well, to be as edgy as possible.
Right.
If you mock or disrespect sacred things or popular things, it gets you attention. Maybe you're trying to send a message and all that typical type of stuff. So there's going to be some of that there. People rightfully pointed out that they probably wouldn't dare to do something like this against any Islamic imagery.
Yeah.
Because there would be a massive amount of backlash, particularly in Europe, where the Muslim population is growing pretty large and pretty large at this point. So that's just something interesting as well. You choose to mock Christianity because a lot of Christians don't have any sort of response. And so, Chloe?
Yeah, just kind of add on to that. From a video I was watching this morning on it, it kind of goes with what you were saying of how they wouldn't do it with any other religion. And that just kind of shows like that Christianity is the true religion because we are openly persecuted. And that's just normal nowadays. I mean, the Bible tells us that the world's going to hate us. And that's just
right.
Yeah.
That's just showing it right there.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah, something, and we talked about that a little bit this morning of, it's kind of interesting that Christianity is the only one that truly gets mocked. And while we both agreed that, like, that doesn't prove anything, it doesn't prove we're the true religion, it's just like one of those things of like, that's weird. Why are we the only ones that get mocked? When we're the only religion that, honestly, we wouldn't have the nation that we have. Like, all the most of the society that we have today is based off of a Christian worldview of like everyone has equal value in the eyes of God, that there's no slave nor free, no male nor female. Like, all these things that we take for granted today is a Christian worldview, and yet we're the ones who get mocked the most.
Right.
I think those are good points. One thing I will be careful of with that is when apologetically, I think Zeke, you pointed out, it's an interesting note, but you wouldn't necessarily build your case on it because Mormons and Scientologists would come around and say, well, people make fun of us and keeping the snarkiness out of it. There are certain reasons for that. But anyways, Blake, I cut you off.
I was just going to say, too, like when it comes to the mockery, I connected it during Sunday school today, but we're going over the Beatitudes and, like, the last verse 10 and verse 11 talk about persecution. And, when you get down to it, like, what is persecution? It's accusing of wrongdoing. But then you get to the next word, which is righteousness. Persecuted for righteousness. And righteousness is being morally justified in everything you do. And what Jesus is trying to get at is think about him. Think about, like, his form of righteousness, like the perfect standard. And so it's like, how could you persecute something that's morally right and justified? And it makes total sense. When we try to walk the life that Jesus walked, we will suffer persecution because it exposes the evils of the world. So, like, the example I used, it's like if we hold to chastity or, keeping things sacred inside of marriage, we're going to be persecuted by a world that wants free sex. If we walk in humility, then we expose, pride and envy and jealousy. Like, it's like that's why we suffer persecutions as Christians, is because we expose evil. We're the light in the darkness. And so that's where a lot of our persecution does come from.
Yeah. People want they want all the things they like about Christianity without all the things they don't like, and
Right.
that's the problem. Like people want love, they want humility, they want affection, they want these things, but they don't have to go and say that someone else is wrong for doing something that they don't agree with, or
Right.
they don't want they're someone else. They don't want a higher being to be accountable to for their lives and their actions and stuff like that. They just want the love and all the other stuff that comes with it.
Right. It's like they just want heaven, but none of like what it takes to get to heaven. And that's really funny too. I mean, Frank Turek's talked about that as well. It's like, a lot of people get mad at God when he doesn't act, and then they get mad at him when he does act. So it's like, what do you really want?
Yeah, that's one. Sorry, we're getting off tangent.
Yeah,
I'll let
sorry.
Nate get us back on after this one. But one I thought of is exactly what you just said. Of like people say, well, why doesn't God stop all the evil? But the same people who I've heard say that will be the same people who complain that he killed all the people who were sacrificing children to Molech. They'll complain, say, "Oh, God's awful! Like he put it into all the people in Canaan, all the Canaanites." But then if you read about them, you're like, "Oh, they were sacrificing children, and God put it into evil." So which one do you want?
Which one do you want? Yeah. They only want God when he's for them.
Yeah.
And then they don't want him when he's like, hey, no, you have to be held accountable to your actions.
Anywho,
yeah,
so where were we?
We're going to move now to the Christian response to the opening ceremony. So some Christians were like, let's boycott. This was blasphemous, disrespectful, sacrilegious, all the different terms. Let's withdraw, and that'll send them a message. Hey, don't make fun of us. Don't mock us. We make a major part of the world, but also particularly the West. Other people were like, really, it's not that big of a deal. Unbelievers are going to act like unbelievers. Why are we surprised? Why would that offend us? When sinners sin, should that shock us? And then the other people are thinking, yeah, well, you might not like it, but what about the missionary aspect of Christian athletes being able to interact and form friendships and talk to people from all over the globe? And, well, if you boycott, then now all of a sudden the opportunity to share the gospel, it's gone. And so just a wide range of opinions about how to respond to this. So I'm going to open it up broadly. What are y'all's thoughts with that? Or is there an option I didn't mention, Zeke?
Yes to all of them.
Yes to all of them.
Beautiful.
So, I mean, I wouldn't like take back to last year when we had the Target thing going on during Pride Month, and a lot of Christians boycotted Target for the month of June, or whatever month it was.
Yeah, it's
June. And this year, a lot of people have been noticing that Target really dialed back some of their stuff. Now, obviously, it's not perfect, and we're not expecting a non-Christian company to be perfect, or a Christian company for that matter to be perfect. But I think there is a sense in which, while we do have the authority and we do have say, because we are a good majority, we should let our voice be known. So yes to that one. The second one we encounter all the time. Just go watch any TV show today, and like almost anything we watch, Chloe will say something like, "Don't they know that's wrong? Don't they?" Even if it's a fictional show, she's like, why would anyone do that? I'm like, the world is the world.
The world is the world.
I'm not. We should. I mean, the Bible tells us not to be surprised when our world acts like the world. So it shouldn't catch us off guard. It'd be like, I can't believe the world's gotten this way. Like, you keep hearing this of the world's going to hell. I'm like, the world's been headed that way since the beginning of time, pretty much. It's if it wasn't for Christ, we wouldn't even have a chance to turn the other way. So yes to that one, in the sense of we shouldn't be surprised, and I think we should use our voice to say that these things aren't right and that we don't agree with them, and that it shouldn't be done. And then the third one of, well, what do you do about the athletes and the people who are Christians in these countries and stuff? And I think there's maybe a middle ground of boycotting, letting our voice be known that this isn't okay, we don't like this, but we're still going to support certain athletes and stuff like that. We're still going to watch them, but we're not going to support the Olympics in other ways. Is there a way to do that?
So I'm not sure. We could work through what that might look like, but Zeke, that was a very political answer.
I guess my point, if I wanted to get more practical, I think we've made our voice known to the first point, and that's why they're backpedaling. Say, oh, no, it was about Dionysus.
Yeah,
oh, no, it was about this. I think that's the boycott part. We've made our voice know that this isn't okay, and I don't think they'll do the same thing next year or something similar. I hope not. I mean, next year or next 4 years,
they might
whatever.
just double down and just do the birth of Jesus.
And maybe that's where we push back even more. But like you said, I also don't want to give up the point of the opportunity to minister to other people and other nations and stuff like that. So I think we've pushed back, but we still help the Christians who are competing.
I think when it comes to things like this, like the Target thing or the Last Supper, I don't know that there's one correct response to it, because I think that it majorly has to do with your own personal conviction. Like last year when all the Target stuff was going on, I boycotted them during the month of June. But then I do know that some people, like one of my favorite podcasters, she's been boycotting them for years now because she doesn't support and I don't support they do either. But my personal conviction was, okay, let me at least just not go for a month, the month of Pride month or whatever.
We don't really ever go that often, to be fair.
Yeah, we don't go that often. But I love Target. And I love Target. I can spend a lot of money there, but I decided not to go during June because of all that stuff going on that I didn't support. So when it comes to the Olympics, like, if you want to boycott it, like, sure, that's fine. Like, that's your own conviction. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. But if not, and you don't support it, like me, like, I don't support the Last Supper thing. I think it was very blasphemous. I haven't really watched the Olympics, but just because I've been busy, not because of boycotting. But I think it's fine to watch it. Just like, if you engage in these conversations with people about it, maybe just let your voice be heard about how you don't support it and why you don't support it. And like you said, it's a good chance to have good gospel conversations with people.
So, Chloe, yes, great points, but also you pulled a Zeke of being very political, follow convictions, follow what you feel is right, which I agree with.
I think the answer
what would you do is more what I'm going for.
I think what I would do if I was to watch if I wasn't in school right now, I would have watched the Olympics. Like, even though I didn't support the opening ceremony, I think I still would have watched it.
So maybe the third reason of being a light to those around you would probably be the one you'd go with.
Yeah, I think so.
So I've been watching the Olympics and kind of keeping up with like the swim and gymnastics. Those are like my favorites. And so I guess by watching it, you're supporting it. But when I was thinking with y'all saying that with boycotting things, the thing would be half of the companies, half of the brands, most of the things we wear, none of that is ran by Christian brands. I mean, not none of it, but a large majority of it. So you'd have to boycott half the things you do on a normal basis for it to be like legitimate, in my opinion.
Gotcha. And that's a good counter argument to boycotting. It's like, you can't boycott everything. Chloe?
And I think that could even go down to like we just got a house, so like, did the people who cut down the wood, were they Christians? Like, did they?
You should have asked.
You could make a long train of people that are involved in making clothes, building houses, like whatever, and you're not ever going to be 100% perfect.
Mariah, I do have to share, you probably already knew this, but the pommel horse guy, he's in a relationship, so I'm sorry.
I was pretty sad about that.
I know.
I was rooting for the nerdy glasses guy. Come on.
He did really well. So Mariah, also, I guess you'd go the route of maybe not boycott, but be a light, participate, do your best, and that's maybe the best answer to someone mocking our faith. Now, Blake, we had a conversation, and you were very strongly, at one point, not saying now, you were very strongly in favor of boycotting. Where do you stand now on all that?
Yeah, I'm kind of like, I've changed it to more being like a light into the darkness. And the only reason why is I really just try to look at the example that Jesus set. Like, what would Jesus have done in this moment? And I'm taken back to where, he goes into his father's house and he flips over tables and stuff. And it's not like, okay, when I say that, it's like, oh, we should meet them with extreme, like, we should go flip a table at the Olympics. And I'm not saying that at all. It's just the way that Jesus made his voice heard and, like, the impact that he showed. Because he didn't sin. He had righteous anger, and he had every right to be angry. And it's, as Christians, we can't just, I don't know, boycotting, it gets into the weeds of like that. Like, people could just throw that at us, like, well, why don't you boycott every single thing if it isn't Christian? But I think more so of our voices need to be heard. We believe in a God that creates everything. And the beautiful thing about it is, and this can give all of us Christians a lot of peace, is that God will God is God, and so his will be done. And we read that in Romans. So it's like whether or not people do good or do bad, God's going to reign supreme in all of it. So that's already taken care of. The war's already won. So we don't have to worry about that. But as Christians, we do need to stand for truth, grace, love, mercy. Like, we have to stand strong on those things because that's representative of our faith. Do we have strong faith? And that's the only way. And us having strong faith is how, God uses us as extensions to let more people encounter Christ. And so if we go about boycotting, to me, it's just kind of like, in a way, it's kind of being selfish. It's like, do you really want people to know Christ? Or do you just want this idea of Christ that you've brought up because you think you're a good person because you believe in Christ? Like, that's how I have to look at it. Yeah. Whether that's correct or not, that's just how I look at it. And I do that with anything. It's like when I go to serve, it's like, am I serving because I want people to know the love of Christ? Or am I serving because I have Christ attached to me in some way and I want people to think I'm a good person? And those can be very wicked and harmful. So I think we should just not boycott. I think we should just be light into the darkness. But we need to have our voices heard. Like, we need to have strong values and morals. Oh my goodness.
All right. Entering the room, we have 7'2", power forward, Isaac Adams.
Oh, there he is. Oh. Look at him. Oh, my
With
goodness.
shooting guard, Mackenzie Adams, and the new point guard, just born.
He's playing football.
Yes.
Nate, that's a running back.
He's a quarterback.
Well, I didn't
quarterback.
know they brought in a football. I was using the basketball analogy.
Well, now this is ruined.
It's all ruined. It's awful. But anyways, Isaac Mackenzie just entered the room, and they just had a child.
Like as of right now.
Yeah,
as of 2 seconds ago. No. But anyways, we were very blessed and thankful. And how is John Isaac doing? We get a thumbs up from Mackenzie. But right now, y'all, we're just talking about the Olympic opening ceremony and just how Christians respond to things. Yeah. So what I'll say about this topic is a couple things. One, every issue is nuanced and is its own thing. So, for example, the opening ceremony, yes, I don't like it, disrespectful, all those words. But that they're not the Olympics. It's the games themselves. So
right.
it's different than a company, Target, Starbucks. Running is running. Swimming is swimming. So the organizers of the location, it's in France, yeah, that wasn't great. But the Olympics themselves go back thousands of years. And so don't let a dumb act in a ceremony derail the fact that the original purpose of the Olympics was to celebrate human competition. So I wouldn't get too caught up there. Another one of my reactions is just sadness in a way, but sadness for the organizers. Whenever you have a culture, they're going to have things you celebrate. And sometimes I look at certain cultures and my thought is that's the best you have to offer. Zeus is the best you have. Dionysus, the other gods. If you know Greek mythology, you know that they're very petty, very human, very lustful, angry, selfish. They're basically big baby humans in a way, that the deities that they worship. And then I compare it to Jesus, and it makes me almost pity those who that's what you celebrate. That's what the highest your culture has to offer, as opposed to get mad. I'm like, oh, that's the hope of the world. And I don't know. I didn't get mad at the organizers. I kind of got sad for them that they thought that this was the pinnacle of, truth and goodness and beauty. The gospel is so much better. So I didn't even get mad in a way. It was more pity for them. But anyways, Zeke, Blake, y'all wanted to say something?
Go for it.
I kind of lost my train of thought.
That's okay.
The only thing, I like how you said, they've kind of, if that's the best they have to offer, the gospel is just so much more beautiful. And I think that really should be a good view that people have on it, of like, if this is the best that the world has to offer, like, just take one glimpse at the gospel and like, it's magnitudes upon magnitudes better. And it's just so much more amazing once you fully understand it and really grasp onto what it is.
Yeah.
Not how Christians act, how Christians do life, not who's hurt you in the past, but like what the true gospel said.
Yeah.
And it's amazing.
So the Greek mythology stories. Is anyone else here into Greek mythology? Okay. Any Percy Jackson fans?
Yes, I
Okay.
read all those.
They're so good.
There we go. And I think some of the stories are cool, and I think you can learn from them. But when you compare it to the Christian story of creation, the fall, redemption, the cross, and all that, it just pales in comparison. And so when the organizers thought to attack the Last Supper, it's just kind of like I shrug, because it's like an ant trying to attack an elephant. It's like, oh, like we're saying, that's the best you have. The gospel, Christ, fully God, fully man, dying for us so that we can come to know God. Just the most beautiful story ever told, ever written. But anyways, any other thoughts on Christian responses, Blake?
Oh, this wasn't this has to do with Christian response, but for all of us Christians, I think we can collectively agree, and maybe not, but I do not support Andrew Tate responding the way that he responded.
Okay, walk our listeners through what he said.
Yeah, I didn't
So like he like pretty much was like, "Are you guys not going to do anything?" Talking about the Christians, like, you just going to but he's a Muslim. Like, so I don't know why he's telling us how we should react to it. So, but what he ended up doing was actually protesting outside of the Olympics on behalf of Christians. While I'm thankful that, you want to support us in the way, it's like, with Andrew Tate, it's like he'll do anything to stay relevant. That's how I look at it. Is like, I don't think it was genuine.
Well, it worked.
It worked. I mean, you stayed relevant.
So let me explain. There's been a movement on both non-Christians and certain Christians that think that Christianity is spineless, that we're weak and we're cowardly.
Yeah,
and so the thought is, you need to respond the way Muslims would. Andrew Tate's a Muslim. You need to respond the way Muslims would, burn things down, destroy things, react in a military style way, because when someone disrespects you, that's how you show strength. So Andrew Tate is telling Christians, you got to let this happen. You're going to let your faith be disrespected. You need to respond the way I would, which for Muslims, it's burning, pillaging, rioting. You see it in different parts. Anytime Muhammad, real or imagined, Allah, the Quran, is disrespected in some way, they riot, they burn, they destroy things. And that's their way of showing that Islam is a strong faith with people with a spine. But what Andrew Tate, great theologian that he is, he forgets what makes Christianity the way that it is. And that's, we follow Jesus. Jesus was a traveling homeless rabbi. They follow Muhammad, who is a warrior. And so the way we respond to things is different. And our way is not weakness. It is a spiritual type of strength that the world does not understand. Christianity grew not by the sword, but through suffering. Islam grew through wars and fighting. So it's just, again, different religions and how we respond to stuff. But anyways, any other thoughts there, Blake, or do you want to put that in?
Yeah, I just think Christians, we just need to be wary about, because I've met a lot of, especially here in the South, you have a lot of, I don't want to say rednecks and be disrespectful, but you got a lot of people who are Christians, but they want to do the militaristic route. Like they'll say we need to show them who's boss. We need to. I've heard people say we need to beat them up. Beat the fear of God into
those
them.
are strong versions of what's called Christian nationalism.
Yeah, and we just need to be wary. We don't need to go the Christian nationalist route. We need to stay humble, stay meek. The best way I keep myself humble is when I see things like that. While I do get filled with righteous anger, and I think it's rightfully so that I get filled with righteous anger, I have to remind myself that the only thing that's stopping me from doing exactly what they're doing is how Christ has changed my heart and transformed my life. And if he can do that for me, I know he can do that for them.
Yep.
That was beautiful.
Amen.
I love that.
Word.
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 All right, friends. Anything else, or are we going to wrap this up?
I think we're good. Blake.
All right, Blake, do you have any special sign-off or not this time?
Oh, you want me to ruin it?
Yeah.
Gosh, go ahead. How'd you ruin it? Do I want to
I
know?
don't really know how I would. I could sing Creed. Nah, Justin's not here. I can't do that.
I love
Yes,
Creed. You
indeed.
can sing Creed.
I can give a little shout out to Justin.
Okay, give a shout out to Justin.
Justin, you're
Rip.
rip.
All right, until next time, Dangerous Faith Podcast. We'll talk with you later.
Bye.
Justin's
That's the one thing you could think of to say.
Nate's sighing because he's like, oh, more editing now.
He's like, dang it!
Gotta take that as just Justin.
Justin,
Take out the word Justin. Just put